Imagine standing at the edge of a vast horizon. You feel the weight of change before you even know what's coming. It's subtle at first, like the air shifting before a storm. Well, that's where we find ourselves right now as individuals, as a society, and maybe that's where we find ourselves right now as individuals and as a society, and maybe even as a species on the edge of something profound. I'm Mark Roach. Welcome to Transcendent. On the edge of something profound. I'm Mark Roach. Welcome to Transcendent, the platform I've built to help us uncover truths that we often avoid, not because they're too complicated or complex, but because they force us to confront who we really are. My life's been a study in contradictions, from being mentored with innovators and healers to navigating the hard truths of my own past. This space isn't about perfection, it's about exploration. And today, I want to talk about evolution, not just biological, but spiritually, emotionally, and personally. We're moving toward 2027, a year purported in Rave Cosmology VIII as the crossroads for a massive shift in human consciousness. Well, what does that mean exactly? And how does it affect you? Well, the document introduces this concept as a fundamental transition from what's known as a seven-centered consciousness to a nine-centered being. It sounds abstract, maybe even esoteric, might even be upsetting to some people. But it's rooted in the idea that humanity is evolving, and not just physically, but in how we process and understand the world. The seven-centered consciousness, which guided much of the past, is defined by strategy, control, and power. It's the mindset of survival, of black and white thinking. But the nine-centered beings, which represent humanity's emerging potential, operate in a completely different way. They're orientated towards diversity, individual awareness, and collaboration, not out of obligation, because it's natural. If all this feels too big, think of it this way. For centuries, humanity has leaned on external authority. We've relied on institutions to tell us what's true, what's right, and how to live. But as we approach 2027, that external authority starts to break down. We've been seeing that. What's emerging instead is inner authority, the ability to trust ourselves and lead from within. This is not just a spiritual idea. You see it, glimpses of it everywhere. It's in the growing disillusionment with traditional structures like organized religion, government, even education. People are questioning narratives. They're even narratives that they've accepted for generations, searching for something that aligns more with their personal experiences and truths. Think about the phrase, trust yourself. It's thrown around so casually that it almost loses meaning, except maybe in some artistic or spiritual communities that have been dealing with this for maybe centuries to carry this tradition forward. But the shift to a nine-centered consciousness reframes what self-trust actually demands. It's not about impulsiveness or rejecting tradition out of rebellion. It's about turning or tuning in to something deeper, understanding who you are, and what guides you. The teachings in Rave Cosmology VIII articulate this beautifully. And if you look at the Bible, you'll even see that many of Jesus's teachings mirror exactly what I'm talking about here. They explain that each of us carries a unique blueprint, an inner map designed to guide us through life. When we surrender to it, well, we stop trying to control every outcome through sheer willpower or force, and life begins to flow in an unexpected yet deeply aligned way. But surrender doesn't come easily to most of us. We live in a world addicted to control, to plans, to strategies and expectations, to guarantees, if you believe that. The idea of letting go can feel reckless or even irresponsible. Yet what we're bringing into the future or into the now is that we're being asked to do this and take this approach in this transition. And it's not to abandon accountability, but it's to release resistance to what's natural, resistance to who we really are. Surrender in this context is not defeat, it's partnership. It's working with life instead of against it, working together versus for an institution or for some ideology that's serving the top 1%. And this partnership is vital now more than ever because the world is restructuring. The guideposts of society are shifting, and in their place, individuality is rising as the new center. This isn't individuality in the shallow sense, the kind that marketing campaigns latch onto to sell you the same product disguised as personal choice. No, something deeper. This is about seeing yourself as a distinct yet interconnected piece of a larger puzzle. It's about owning your perspective, your gifts, and your place in the evolving story of humanity. And, it may not be easy. Owing to your individuality or owning your individuality often requires stepping away from the comfort of being understood. It means unlearning the ways you've been taught to conform. Rave Cosmology VIII warns us about the challenges of this shift. It points to homogenization, the trend of blending individuals into one indistinct mass as a major obstacle. Society thrives on sameness because it is easier to manage, it's easier to sell to, easier to control. But the cost of homogenization is our most valuable resource as humans, our uniqueness. Each time we compromise who we are to fit in, we lose a little bit of what makes us extraordinary, a little bit of what actually might answer the bigger questions in life. You might wonder, what does this shift mean for me daily? Well, the answer is both simple and profound. It means the decisions that you make need to come from your internal authority, not from pressures from the outside. It means waiting for clarity instead of rushing into action because everyone else is doing it. It means learning to differentiate what's truly yours from what's been placed upon you. The tools to do this are already in you. They've always been there. But tapping into them requires a pause, a willingness to step back from the noise and ask, what actually feels aligned for me? The brilliance of nine-centered consciousness is that it doesn't isolate us. Paradoxically, individuals are strengthened And the collective humanity becomes more full with this nine-center operation. When you live authentically, you contribute something irreplaceable to the world. You move through life not as an echo or as a robot, but as a distinct frequency. And that frequency influences others, not by force, but through resonance. Imagine a symphony where every instrument vibrates as the natural tone. That's the potential of the transition we're moving toward in 2027, a world where the collective thrives because the individual thrives. I'd like to leave you with this thought. We're at the edge of a massive change, but this change isn't something to fear. It's something to welcome, to lean into, and to grow from. Ask yourself, how much of what you do is influenced by who you truly are? How much is influenced by the systems and the expectations around you? The answers to these questions might not come easily, but I promise they're worth pursuing and exploring, because once you start living from your design, from your inner authority, everything shifts. I'm Mark Roach. This is Transcendent, wishing you all the best.